Trust me, doctor. I don't care about the rest of the world. I care about only my country now, and I don't care even about Saudi Arabia right next to me. My country, my people. That's all what I care about.
That's why we are here.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, very pleased to have you once again. It's not long ago since we had our first close visual podcast. We had ended up the last time with like a very big agreement on one side that we have a mutual feeling that there is some sort of very large political scandal that is taking place right now and under our watch. And this is when we talk about the peace deal that is being proposed to be imposed on Yemen. Or before we start, again, Doctor, I don't believe there is any Yemeni that would say he's against peace. Everyone wants peace. We all want peace. Anyone that says, I don't want peace, let's all take one rock now and throw it at him. But there isn't. But let's talk about peace in a way that we understand. We are puzzled by the stand until now by the people that we anticipated that they will be supporting the freedom and the human rights aspect of this conflict. But I refer you recently to 2 days ago, there was a letter issued by the Congress members to the President Joe Biden. And clearly from the beginning of this letter, we write to express our strong support of your decision to end U.S. participation to offensive operations in Saudi UAE-led war in Yemen. We have no problem with that. This is not where we have a problem. What we have a problem with is when congressmen write the following sentence. They say, while we have no illusion about Ansarullah's destructive role in this conflict. Now listen, these are congressmen. Mm-hmm. And I refer you to also to one of the Congress members who was also one of the people that signed this letter. And he said in his tweet, and I quote, he says, we know that the Houthis' hands are stained with the blood of Yemenis. But Yemenis have to understand that he is now a number that is hard to overpass. And we have to sit and deal with him. Now, it's strong that we have to make peace with him. Will you accept that in your own country when this letter comes from a congressman that we anticipate will be fighting for the freedom? And the United States had always preached that this country is the land of the free. Are they free for themselves and the rest of the world should have a fake freedom, or what is going on? I would like you, Dr. Ibrahim, to get me through. The second part of this conversation will be pointed to Europe, group from the Green Party that had just 10 days ago tried to pass or proposed a bill to the Bundestag in Berlin, also talking about the issue of Yemen, and also having the same misconception about the conflict in Yemen. And the same idea is being drifted from one side to the other, and the sacrifice will be Yemeni people. How can we start looking at this from your point of view, Dr. Ibrahim?
Thank you for having me, and I welcome all the people in the podcast listening to this or watching it. First of all, I am not a doctor. If you would. Second, I do want to kill the discussion from the beginning by saying it is up to us, the nation of Yemen. It is up to us, the nation who was one of the oldest, if it's not the oldest nation on earth. It's up to us to make this decision. If we leave a central decision on the lives and of the of the, let's say, the sovereignty of our state on the hands of the outsiders, whether they are the neighbors or they are foreign as far as the Americans themselves, however they are powerful, it's up to us. But rather than killing it, let's discuss the details. In my humble opinion, this mechanism of political process which going on in the USA, it is not new. It doesn't just happen because of Yemen. It's happening because of many other countries during many decades in the past, since America bestowed itself as the central power or the most powerful nation on earth to rule over the rest of the nations. This is started in right after the First World War, to appear in the world for the first time, and then in the 1945, right after the Second World War, it's asserted its position as the most powerful nation on earth. Whether they are the most powerful nation on earth or not, there are many nations who decide their fate by themselves. And we are talking here about 40 million people. These 40 million people, if they don't have a strong leadership to lead them, the Americans are, we can't say they are a big factor, let's say, or they are the most powerful nation. They can do a lot, but let's say even the smallest country in the region can manipulate the Yemeni daily politics and can score against the Yemeni nation and the Yemeni state because of our weaker leadership and they eating off our sovereignty little by little. And this is happening for years now, 6 years. This war have been ended if they were they were not conspiring against the Yemeni army. But conspiracy is there, deception and deceiving the Yemeni people in support in many ways. And the Houthi, he get all the benefits. He reap all the benefits. The Houthi has the support of the Human Rights Watch. This is one organization and many other organizations. The Houthi has the Iranian personalities who lived in many Western countries and the USA. They are being appointed to the highest positions in different sectors, whether they are in the American administration or in the NGO, the non-governmental organizations as well. They are nearly everywhere and they work hand in hand with them. Add to that, any person who is Shiite, so-called Shiite from this sect in Islam, they work under the Iranians, whether they are Pakistanis, Lebanese, and the list goes on. They work everybody from where they are placed, whatever their position is, wherever they live, in which country, especially in the Western America, and they support this dream of having the Shia state to take over. And in this sense, Yemen is part of the plan. But the Americans, if they since they didn't want to end the war a long time ago, and they didn't push their allies in neighboring Yemen to do the right job, it's only a matter of time for us since then. And now we are nearing to have Yemen being divided. This is one. Yemeni people before division or after the division, they will live, let's say, side by side with conflicts between them, if they were two states. And if let's say, if they still stay as one, the conflict, the civil conflict will continue. It's never-ending conflict.
There is no way for me to disagree or go aside from all the points you have mentioned. It is in our hands. There is no doubt about that. But there will always be the issue of the principle of the conflict itself. Now, the world had from the beginning on been involved with the issue of Yemen. It's not like the Yemenis were left alone to manage their issue, and now we are suddenly going to get involved. No, the world has already said its word about defining this conflict after a lot of blood was already shed, and the world set together, and the United Nations and the Security Council resolution number 2216 did not come from an empty place. We have no hole in our memory to know what built up to that resolution. And now all of a sudden we are requested to forget all that suffering that we have lived until that resolution was issued. And even though until now nothing of it has really been implemented, but we are supposed to forget it all of a sudden. Why was it issued? That why was the Houthi at that time requested to be disarmed? And now hasn't changed. The Houthi is killing people. The Houthi is an illegitimate militia, have confiscated the weapon of the state. What is going on? What has changed for them to sacrifice Yemen like this and sell it to gain some political advances here and there for parties? This was my second part with the Green Party in Germany. I mentioned they had presented just in the last 10 days this draft of a bill to the Bundestag, and they are also proposing the same thing. Everybody now is aiming at gaining political votes, and for all of them, the best way to go is to attack Saudi Arabia. They're thinking now, they linked Yemen issue with the burden that the Saudi came with its problems with the file of the human rights. And all these organizations like the Green Party, even the Social Democratic Party, and this is saddening for me to say because I'm supposed to be a supporter of the Social Democrat, but they're only looking at it from the aspect we're going to have to defeat this human violations that is being done by Saudi Arabia. Looking at the history of the file of Saudi Arabia, not actually looking at the actual situation in Yemen and the suffering of the people of Yemen. What is Yemen being sacrificed for, in your view?
Yemen, it's the weakest state. It's the failed state, and this is the result. You see, in the world of politics between nations, when you collapse as a nation, many will jump on you to take whatever they can take off. And that's what happened to Yemen. It's like an animal is trembling and falling down, and then the lions just reach out. So it's a tough case for us in Yemen. In the end of the day, if they decide to divide Yemen, they will. You see, international law is not the Holy Bible for the Christians, and it's not the Qurans for the Muslim, and it's in the end of the day, it's not the Torah or the Talmud for the Jews. It's just an international law being set by people. These people who were from certain countries in the world to benefit themselves and their nations. That's how it works. This is the actual formula of the international law and in all its articles and so on and so forth. Coming down to the judgment of the international law, according to the United Nations resolutions and so on and so forth, in the end of the day, how many resolutions being enacted against atrocities by other nations? Let me give you an example. In the Middle East, Israel, the state of Israel. How many resolutions? What happened? Nobody said anything about it. Or, while the atrocities against the Palestinians is going on for the last 70 years. So Yemen, it's quite new, let's say, to this. We can scream as much as we like. We can. But they will go through. They will stamp on us and move on. And I'm speaking as a Yemeni person now, from my guts, because it is difficult to see Aryan Tabtabai, this lady, to be the head of the Middle East advising desk in the State Department of the Americans. She is originally Persian. She is Shiite, and she is a supporter of many of the mullahs in the Iranian regime, as well as her father is a scholar in one of the top universities there, and he is part of the regime itself. And they bestowed her, or they put her as, or she been appointed to take over the issue in the Middle East. And in the Middle East, my country, Yemen, is part of that. And to let's say, to cure the disease in Yemen, part of it is an Iranian virus. So can she kill her own? I don't think so.
Well, that's very interesting point. I wanted to talk also to Dr. Abdelkader Al-Junaid. And these point of views have been really interesting to go over, to see what whether Biden and his new decisions, the set plan, and it's already in its final implementation phase. Now, these new appointments by Joe Biden in the cabinet, and the new envoy to Yemen, and the new envoy to Iran, and this triangle that you are talking about, that's going to be leading the American decision-making process when it comes to Yemen and to. What can you tell us about the history of those people, like whether it is to Linder King or to Mali, or when it comes to also this Fagal Tabtabai?
For this lady, Miss Tabtabai, she's an American citizen, although she's Iranian as well. Her role is she is well placed. I mean, and she was well groomed, let's say, within the corridors of political process and decision making institutions in the USA. If you take to comparison, as well as Jawad Zarif, he is the foreign minister of the Iranian regime. He was also educated in the USA. He is mingling and working under the table with the Americans. You see, if you, this lady, she supported the mullahs in Iran with statements. She condemned Trump for his approach for of the case with Iran. She came out fighting for her own people, you know, in the end of the day. Let me remind you of one thing.
No, I caught just the last few words from the from your guest.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
I'll post it. I'll post it in the group later on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Alrighty.
So, Ustad Muhammad, so?
Hello, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a really very interesting dialogue, and I would like to hear more of it. And the last phrase you mentioned was very interesting to me, because I'm not an expert in this, that this document by the leader of the Houthis, Abdul Malik al-Houthi himself, made this document. Probably if you publish it and
I have published it. It's in my Facebook, and they know.
Very
it.
good, very good. Okay, because it's probably for me the first time to hear it, so it's very good. And I hope
it's very. Let me tell you about this article there, Ismail. They say very detrimental things. They say the rule is in the Al Bayt, and that comes to the Hassani and Husseini, and they even say that by name. And it has been passed through the imams of time, and it will continue as this. Any like political process will be accepted. We will rule people with how did they say? We will rule people with justice, as long as they obey the view of the Al Bayt. Clearly, I mean, what else do you wait? I don't know. It's just crazy.
Well, this is really some kind of apartheid.
And then they come and support it. Who? The people that say we are fighting for the human rights and the freedom.
Of course, you know, by you living now in Europe and we lived in America and here and there and London, you know, the mentality is different, you know. And also, perhaps, you know, of course, on the face value, the NGOs and this there and the normal people in the whole world and in the West and the United States are very honest and very good and sincere. But, you know, when you come to the political decision makers, you know, it's a little different, you know, unfortunately. Consciously or unconsciously, you know, it's a little different, you know. Yeah, you remember that little...
We discussed last episode with Mr. Ibrahim also the issue whether it is with intention or are they just doing that out of not knowing. And
yes.
It doesn't look like it's without. I mean, they know. I mean, if you haven't heard this document, but I am sure the specialized people in the American institutions know about this document and they've translated it and they have read it. And I would be really surprised to know that somebody in Quincy Institute or any other institute that is advocating for Al-Houthi now can come in public and say, no, I have not read that document, which Al-Houthis themselves call it the constitution of the intellectual and cultural agreement. I mean, for them, it is one of the identification cards. They will live with it and they insist on it. And yet, they are aware of these documents and still they want to advocate for him.
Okay,
this is why I called it one of the worst political scandals of the history.
Okay, to pursue the discussion, let me take the side of the Americans, you know, or that...
Please do.
Okay, when it started, like Dr. Ibrahim Saydai mentioned, you know, that, you know, when at the beginning, you know, when the coup d'etat, the story, you know, so everybody was, between brackets, was against them, even though they really initiated them and started them, you know, the American, let's not say the American government, at least the CIA, the Abu Dhabi government and the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia at that time. You remember they met in Abu Dhabi, and they said we would like to get rid of the Islah. So when these people come, you know, the Houthis, you just let them come, and they paid so much money, you know, to the Ministry of Defense. It was the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, you know, and the current ruler of Abu Dhabi, you know, that made that episode so that when the Houthis came, and unluckily, unfortunately too, President Saleh also sided with this for his own reasons, you know, and let the Houthis very easily come to Sana'a, take Sana'a. You remember before that also, I was at that time still in Yemen also, and then hearing that this division, the commander of this division is pro-Islahi, so let's get rid of him. And then they appoint somebody, and then we hear that somebody is, is a Hashemite or whatever, whether he's from the north, mostly from the north, but even some from the south. We didn't know that in the south we had Hashemis too, you see. So, because at the end it was that leader or that commander of that battalion who helped when they moved to the south, you know, and he was in Ataq, you know, he sided with the Houthis. So it was to the President Hadi and his leadership. They didn't know about it, you know. And before that, who was telling Hadi? It was Saudi Arabia, it was Abu Dhabi, and behind them, the intelligence of CIA and the M5, you see. Because, you know, President Hadi didn't know, oh, this is Islah leader, or I mean, pro-Islah, this commander, so let's get somebody else who's better. So, and the people were very nice in Sana'a and Yemen. Oh, okay, these are bad. Okay, let's get the good ones. Because, you know, until that time, the Houthis were being, you know, underdog. They were this, and they played the other face. They were having another mask. Now the real mask has come out, you see. They started them really, but now the Europeans and the Europeans and the Americans, at least those in power, you know, not the NGOs in Frankfurt or in Stuttgart or even in Berlin. No, those on the top echelon, you know, they say what they call it. Let me just put a little bit for the battery. What they say, it's a de facto government. And now, for 6 years there, so we have to recognize them. And by recognizing them, it means you have to give them a piece of the cake. And that piece of the cake will be bigger, depending on the time they spend to be a ruler. And now, that's why, and they know the game, somebody is advising them, you see, from the West, you know, telling them, okay, try to conquer Marib, because your slice will be even bigger now, you see. If you take it, definitely, you know, if you get it, you know, that's why they are working hard. And our brothers are being killed, whether they are Houthis or they are Zaydis or they are Sunnis or they are whatever, because we are killing ourselves. And the deceit comes from our brothers.
That's true.
This war should have lasted, they said 2 weeks, okay, 2 months. And then the Abu Dhabians and the Saudi, they could say, the army, Yemeni army, this is the army, this is the ammunition, you go and fight yourself. Let them, but they didn't allow, because they believed. Some of the Westerners were telling me, when I was asking in London, and I was also in Germany, in Pforzheim, by the way, for some time, they say, well, and then I go to London, I ask, they say, well, the fight will continue until the Republican army of Saleh and whoever and his son is finished. This was at the beginning. I say, why these people are, well, it's not an institutional army. They are people only. He trained a little bit, but they are normal people. They have no ideology. They have nothing, you know. They say until that is the Saudi. They sold that idea to the Americans, you see. And of course, the M4, they know it, or even more, you know. So now
I agree with you in a lot of ways that maybe one of our biggest problems in Yemen is that our rescue captain came with a lot of luggage on his back.
Yeah.
This is first. He came with his problems already on the humans file, but we need to remember that he is doing this in the most turbulent political time in the history of Saudi Arabia. This is happening during the change of the entire setup of the actual Saudi political system. The family rule is not, it was under a big earthquake that
disintegrating, yes.
Yeah, yes. This was happening, and at the same time they were expected to be able to manage the file of Yemen correctly. Well, they underestimated the file of Yemen, obviously, and they underestimated maybe the energy they would need to stabilize the internal affair. So both were not easy for the Saudis to handle, and the attacks they received from, let's say, who they thought were going to be on their side was unawaited. Let's not, if I even don't call it attacks, but the what do you call it? How they left them alone. We're talking about the rest of the Gulf countries. Emirates, the UAE stayed there for its own agenda and has nothing to do with supporting Saudi in its initiative to help Yemen. So the Saudis are left there alone. The Kuwaitis' involvement was minimal to offer political advices or political tables for the sides to meet in, but no actual serious involvement that uses leverages, political leverages, and uses some financial support to it. Oman's position was I can't say negative because it had helped a lot of people from the civilian side by opening the links, but on the political side, it has been ambiguous, the least to say. The other countries that we could depend on have left Saudi Arabia alone. And I'm not saying that Saudi Arabia did the right thing or did the wrong thing, but at the end of the day, we have one legal how do you say description for Yemen, and that is the Republic of Yemen under the legitimate leadership that is still until now recognized in the official international community. If we give in now for the international community this push to like take our weapon from our hand, which is the Article 2216, or the criminalization of Al-Houthi and what he stands for as ideology and as process. He must be criminalized, not as a person, but as an ideology first, as a supremacist, racial, racist group must be criminalized. If we come to be forced to have a peace deal with him, then I think we are being sacrificed in the name of freedom by the West. I don't know what else to say.
No, this is true, but I don't follow the details. In 2216 and other resolutions, was the ideology itself mentioned that it is racist or it is terrorist or whatever? Is Mali going to change it, or just to change a little bit to make a solution, or just to derail that Mr. X and Mr. Y are no more in the list, you know, as persons,
Well,
not the ideology itself. That should remain.
I think what it is going towards is some sort of a hidden deal between the US and Iran. And we talked about this in the first episode, where North Yemen, not the entire North Yemen, maybe you will exclude Marib and some parts, but big part of North Yemen, which I anticipate to be around 100,000, up to 100,000 kilometers, will be handed over to Iran as a military base, an advanced military base, and that will be their compensation for giving up their ambitions to develop nuclear weapons. This military base in Yemen, in North Yemen, was inhabited by at least 8 to 10 to 12, 15 million Yemeni people. This will be the most secured military base in the world. Nobody can, and with the mountains that we have in this area, Tora Bora will be nothing. I mean, this will be one of the strongest military bases in the world when it is handed to Iran. And America had apparently accepted that deal, that they give up their nuclear weapon in return for this military base. In my view, for America, that will be the perfect deal, because the Gulf countries will be then dependent on the American protection more and more, and that will be more, and it's becoming more and more expensive, and as we all know. So, and also we explained how can like an Iranian military base in Yemen be always a trigger point to start some problems around the Silk Road that has to go through Aden and Bab el-Mandeb. Otherwise, it will not reach to Europe, and Silk Road between China and South Asia is not a Silk Road. It has to reach Europe. And if Iran has a stand there where America can at any time create a hot situation to disturb this flow on this project of the Silk Road, Americans and Iranians can also work under table issues to keep this leverage in hand to control the Silk Road. There are a lot of things at stake, but we're only the sacrifice that is happening is the Yemeni people and our destiny, I think.
Mm-hmm. Very true, very true. Well, it's a pity. It's a pity. Yeah. But as you said, what you mentioned about the monarchy in Saudi Arabia, that they are making this at the worst time when it is so destabilized from their own point of view, from their own interest. This is very true. But also at the same time, he should have solved this problem quickly. 2 years, 3 years. And we hear that when our army is trying to advance a little bit, they don't allow them and they hit them from the air.
Yeah.
The first 2-3 times.
There has been, I mean, nobody can deny. I mean, we all admit that it has been disaster. How this entire file has been run is disaster. And this is why we ended up with the worst humanitarian crisis in the world in Yemen. These things don't just happen by themselves. They happen because there is bad administration for important files. And apparently the legitimate government is not in the stand to be able to take the right decisions there. I don't know what's happening there, to be honest.
Yeah, I know. You're right. Very good. Okay.
Anyways.
Very good.
I thank you, Dr. Ismail. I don't know you very much about you. If you can introduce yourself to me at the end of this conversation, because I need to go court. I know we have Abdul Ragib Al-Jubari. He's also a very good friend of mine, but he's still silent.
Yeah, give him a chance to talk, yeah.
So tell me about you, Mr. Ismail. Who are you? Where are you?
Yeah, I'm the first ambassador of South Yemen to the United Nations. Okay. Abdullah Al-Astal was behind me. You heard of Abdullah Al-Astal, yes. He was behind me. Yes. He was representing the extreme left at that time. That is the extreme socialist wing of the ruling group, and we were from Faisal Al-Shabi and Qahtan Al-Shabi group. So we were the kind of moderate, group. Like your socialist democratic party.
Yes.
So they killed us and they threw us out from power, and they killed many of our, especially Faisal Al-Shabi. He was really a great leader. He was killed, and Saif Al-Dal'i, and then many were killed in that diplomatic plane also, you remember. And unfortunately, Ali Salim Al-Bid was a core player in those all negative aspects. He always was. Unfortunately, we know him personally. And then I refused to stay in the UN after the thing, and I returned to work in oil, because I majored in the United States also in both chemistry, and I worked in Aden refinery before, so I returned. I worked in Abu Dhabi for 18 years, and then when oil was discovered in Marib, the Oil Supreme Council in Sana'a, headed by Iriani and Abdulaziz Abdul Ghani, wanted an advisor to help them start their oil business, especially in the field of marketing. At that time, also the World Bank was very supportive to Yemen. There were lots of experts to help Yemen, especially in the upstream, the exploration, and I was the one helping them in the downstream with Minister Ahmed Al-Muhanni, Allah yarhamu yani. And he was a good man, very honest man. And we started the selling of Yemeni oil, and we made the contract agreement, and I was behind it, and I had all his support, to be honest. And we made many basic things, in which you could say whatever was the corruption in Yemen, but at least that part would not be touched.
You're talking, are you talking about 86, 85, 86?
Yes, exactly, yes. Before
let me tell you, yes, I remember this time. I mean, at that time I was in the United States, but yes, I remember Abdul Rab Sinan Abu Luhum, and I remember Askar Ali Hussein. Al-Muhanni was one of the really clean people that went through the ministry. There was corruption, I agree with you, but it was still with some sort of decency.
صحيح.
That has, like, later on, and in the later age, up to 2010 and 11.
After the unity especially, Muhammad, let's be honest. After the unity, you see? Yeah.
In
it became
90s,
so open.
90s,
yes.
Yeah, I was also involved in the field.
Yes, already retired then.
All right.
And came at the right time.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for this nice conversation.
Yeah, keep us informed, yeah.
We'll see. Are you with us in the group? Which group are you in? We have this group for Yemen.
Yeah, for Yemen. Yeah,
you can. I mean, you can always visit me on my website, KDP2 Impact Yemen. You will find the activities on the things that I do. I have also a YouTube channel. I'm not even a journalist, but we're trying to do this because this is what our government.
You have to, yeah.
You're even good at this. I don't even know how to do this, but we have to.
صحيح كلنا لكن ربنا يوفق. ايش واحد زي ايش
الله يعين. يلا تحياتي لكم الجميع.
When the decision came to have Ansarullah being added to the terrorist list in the American system, let's say, or whatever they use for, by the Trump administration, that was what, a day before he left office. It took him 4 years to make a decision, and he knew that they will come right after him within a couple of weeks and take that resolution or that executive order down. It's just a game. It's just a game of politics. Anything to say about democracy, it's for the nations of the USA to take a stand, because the US administration, it is not working on the favor of its own people. Because I know for sure the American people will never accept such injustice like this. I knew them, I lived with them. I understand how humble and how kind and warm the American people. But in the world of politics, in the corridor of playing the cards of nations, that's what happened. It's a tough game, and there is no place for the weaker there. That's how it is. So you see, if I want to make you a president today, I can now, and I can in the past, and I could in the past if I want to. What I have to do, I just utilize two things: public opinion by utilizing the media, yeah, and donors, money. So two things that I can make you a president, even if you are the worst person on earth, but I can make you look nice and say nice things, appear in a good way. And then right after that, you do whatever you want to do with your group or with your collaborators. It's a tough world. And for me, in my opinion, Yemen has collapsed at the hands of people with no mercy in the US administration. And we're not going to talk about the Iranian because they are the worst people. I think Molly's, if you want to say something about Molly, what is his role, Doctor? It will be enlightening.
Well, Molly is the first one that came out in public and says Resolution 2016 should be history. He's the one that called for it in public, the first one, the first American politician that dared to come out and say that, because there are still some decent politicians, I understand, but they're not talking now, and this changes the subject also to Europe, and the stand that is the Europeans are taking is also not far away from the same deception. And this brings us to many of the issues that we discussed in our last meeting, which is what is actually driving this deception of the perception adopted by the Western when it comes to the issue of Yemen. There is one essential thing that they do not listen, and I don't know if they want to listen. They think it's only us saying that Al-Houthi is like this. Well, don't listen to us. Don't read what we write. We refer you to the article that Al-Houthi, Abdul Malik Al-Houthi, who is the leader of this group, and all the scholars that follow him, signed in 2012. And it was openly and published. And they said, the article number 3 of this document, dedicate this family as the only legitimate rulers for the country, and any person that comes with any idea, only idea, to defy their God-given right to rule the people must be
Killed.
what? Killed.
Must be killed. Yeah.
How? And then they, when we tell them this is what this guy and what this group is standing for, don't listen to us. Read what they say they are. And if you still don't have any doubts about your positions, then I really doubt whether you are really what you say you are when you say you stand for the freedom and you stand for the human rights. Dear Ibrahim, thank you very much for taking a lot of your time, but we will meet again in other episodes, and we will be discussing more issues about Yemen.
Inshallah. Thank you for having me. Really pleasure.